My name is Patrick Phillips. I'm the founder and CEO of American Business Systems, and we're sponsoring this webinar today because it's a very important time that we're in. Yes, you need to be knowing how to start a business that has social distancing as its basis. And so we'll get into that in detail here in just a second. All right, so let me just show you a picture here from way back. I mean, talking about 1987. I'm a few pounds lighter there, and my hair, as you can see, is darker. This is my wife, Linda, and my son, Adam, and Sarah, my daughter. We started this business in 1987. Linda started doing some business with a friend of ours, doing the billing for a medical supply company, and billing Medicare, to try to get him paid on different things. And that was 26 years ago. Yeah, here we are here recently in my office. And Linda is no longer a part of the company, although we've been married for 52 years and plan for another 52. She is just basically enjoying life and reaping the rewards of having started this business back in 1994. Now, just so those of you who've not been on these webinars before, just so you know, I am an author. You can find some of my books out there on Amazon.com and in the bookstores. Some of them are written specifically for this business. As you can see, the one in the middle there, I co-wrote that with Dr. Vicki Ratner on the new thriving medical practice. And folks, we teach doctors how to thrive in their medical practice, and that's a winner in today's world, believe me. There's a magazine out there called Billing and Coding Advantage magazine. I'm on the editorial board, and I have articles in that on a regular basis. And yes, this is a real print magazine that's still mailed out in the mail, 40,000 subscribers. Anybody in billing or coding industry subscribes to that magazine. So basically what we have is a cloud-based system that allows you to do medical billing for doctors and provide a lot of other things, including an electronic medical record system. It runs on any platform, any computer, any operating system, any browser. And as long as you have an internet connection, you are in business. It runs just like it is when you do banking at your local bank, for example. That's software software as a service. That is, it's not on your computer, it's out there in the cloud somewhere. And the great thing about this business for our people, folks, is that it allows you to basically work from home. Yeah, just like this guy right here working with his dog. That's his assistant, I'm sure he calls it, as he pays for the food for that dog. That's the expense account. And this allows you to work from anywhere. Yes, we have people who travel in an RV running this business. That's how mobile it can be. You can run it on vacation on the beaches of Hawaii if you have an internet connection out there. Now, you can check us out if you want to make sure we are who we say we are. Just search for Fort Worth BBB. That's the Better Business Bureau. And you'll see that we have an A+ rating. You don't get that after 26 years unless you do what you say you're going to do. Now, let's get back to our topic for today. Our topic is starting a social distancing business during a crisis. And you'll have to admit we're kind of in a little crisis right now. So this is an interview with health expert Tim Warren. And so let's see if we can get Tim on the line with us here. Tim, you still with us? Okay. He says he's going to try one more time here. He says, I'm dialing in, but for some reason he wasn't getting through that first time. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this business. For those of you who are looking to start a business right now, there is no more perfect time. There is no more perfect business than right now. And Tim is going to be on here today because he told me when I interviewed him several years ago that he got into this business because of the financial economic crunch that we were in back in 2008 when he joined us. So we'll find out.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, hey, there he is. Hi, Tim. We start by me just asking you a little bit about when you did get in the business. What were you doing at the time back in, was it 2008 or when did you get in?
Well, that's when I started looking at it, was 2008. I've been really reflective since the coronavirus crisis because we were going through the 2008 financial crisis, and I was working in the musical instruments business. And so that thing really came to a screeching halt in 2008. And I had just started my own independent rep firm. Previously, I'd worked for companies like Fender Musical Instruments and Alvarez Guitar Company and that sort of thing, and had a great career. But I had started my own independent business in 2007, which was perfect timing for 2008, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was pretty rough. And we started thinking to ourselves that we really need to do something different. My big mistake was waiting 3 years to do it. We became licensees in 2012, and it's been the best thing that we've done. I sold my other company, and we went into this full time, and my wife joined me. She was working for Coca-Cola bottling. And so she left that job at corporate office and then came to work with me, and we still work together today.
Yeah, and you are still working from your home, aren't you?
Yeah, we've always worked from home. We're the original social distancers. So,
Well, there's advantages and disadvantages of that, right? I'm here today working out of
yeah.
my home, and obviously my refrigerator is way too close to my office, so that's why I gained a few pounds since that picture I showed earlier. Well, there are some great advantages too. I mean, if you have a dog, for example, like I used to have when I had another home that I was in, the only traffic I ran into was the dog on the staircase as I
Right.
went my bedroom downstairs to upstairs office. So it's been terrific for me and my wife and my family. As you know, my son Adam is now the president of the company. He runs the company, and my daughter has her own business now. But at the time, we were all just diving in there and doing whatever we needed to do.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
we've developed a good little staff. For a long time we tried to do everything bootstrapping it and just doing everything ourselves. And then I just realized at one point in time that it was probably better for my future if I worked on my business instead of in my business. And so we got a little staff together, and they've been fantastic. And so we have more spare time than we used to. So,
Well, that's what usually happens with our licensees as their business grows. I mean, you can only do so many medical claims, and after several thousand, you go, you know what? I could hire somebody to do this because the type of money that you're making, you're overpaid for doing the data entry at some point, aren't you?
oh, absolutely.
So most of our licensees do hire some people as they grow. Now, I've got other licensees, as you know, Tim, that I've interviewed over the years that have said, nope, I'm not growing any bigger than I want to. I like what I'm doing. And one lady moved to the mountains of Utah because she just wanted to raise horses. And she keeps
Hmm.
a few clients, but she doesn't want to grow it any bigger than that. So, it's just her and her husband up there on the mountaintop.
Oh, I know her, and she's got a great thing going there.
Yeah.
Um, she's she's got an awesome setup.
Yeah, it's a tremendous way to run a lifestyle business. Hey, I don't know if you can still see the pictures I'm throwing up on the screen. Can you? Are you still on the computer?
I can.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You remember that? That was a few years back when you
I
came through
do.
training, and that's your wife, Robin. There, is she still involved? I think she runs your business. Basically, you're just the
She's
supervisor.
the only one. She's the only one that knows what she's doing and works all the time. So.
Well, you guys have made a terrific business out of this, and I'm just thrilled. Now, I'm going to take some questions from the audience, Tim, about you.
Sure.
And there's people talking about here now. Your slide is working, and they can see the pictures that we're putting up there. Now, here's another picture of
Good.
Tom and Tim and Robin. And I'm going to throw some other pictures up as we go through this. But somebody's asking here, how did you get your first client?
I would. I, I've told this to everybody that I've talked to for years that I was in sales and I had to deprogram myself. I thought I knew everything about sales and I didn't have any concerns about that. And it's just different. This is not selling. It's more or less just making yourself an expert in an area and answering questions and solving problems. And that's all that they really expect from you. They don't want to be sold to. So anybody that was like me, I was constantly selling and I was having no luck. I went back to the drawing board, and you guys taught me to, like how to network proper, how to talk to practices. And so I joined a networking organization. I did everything as I was told, and that's where my first client came from, was from the networking organization.
Well, which is an interesting point because in today's social distancing, now this won't last forever. I don't know how you think about all this that's going on, Tim, but I know that, it's just a matter of another month or so. We look back and we just kind of think, wow, what happened? So life will go back to normal here in the United States. I have a
It
feeling
will, yes.
many of our states have already reached their peak. They're leveling off, and so the cases are going down now, which is a good sign. That's where we all need to get. Same way with China and South Korea. So I'm just wondering if people are aware that there are ways to market to doctors that don't entail doing some sort of networking, which means getting together with other business people in your area, or even calling on doctors live, door to door. Some people have done that, of course. Nothing wrong with it, but in this particular environment right now, they don't want to see anybody else. They've got plenty of patients to see, don't they?
They certainly do. And I'm going to tell you something. I have never been associated with an industry that was more guided by word of mouth. That's why you guys taught me to network, is because the thing about healthcare professionals is that they care very much what their peer group is doing. They care very much about the people that their peer group trusts. And if you can, the secret to the business is just have one really happy client, and they'll start multiplying because they'll tell everybody they know.
Yeah. Yeah, word of mouth, that's grown. Many of our licensees will say that when I interview them, they'll go, Patrick, I did what you told me to do to get my first client. And they may have gone out and done some networking or left some brochures in doctors' offices. But after they got the first doctor and did a good job for that doctor referred other doctors, and then it just grows from there because they all know one another and they like sharing the good news.
The marketing materials that you guys gave me were so professional, and the funny thing is that when I went out there, I used a little stack of them, and then as soon as I got a couple or three clients, I haven't used any since then. It's all been word of mouth. So I've still got a big stack of these things at the house, and that was 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think we're including now over 2,000 copies of the flyers that I have here on the screen. These are our professional, 8.5 by 11 flyers. But we also have postcards that are available and all kinds of other marketing materials, including the book that I showed earlier there in the middle of this picture here, The New Thriving Medical Practice. Tim, have you used that with your name on the cover as a forward?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. Yeah. I bought a box of those things, and I just wanted to use those for more goodwill than anything else. And it really has done a great job for opening some doors that were previously closed.
Sure. Well, and let's dive into it if we can today. I'll open the question box is still open, folks. If you want to ask questions specifically to Tim, since he is a licensee, he did the due diligence that you're doing now on our business. He's come through our training. He's experienced our support. Just ask him any question as if you were sitting right here in front of him, next to him, and talking to him one-on-one. And I'll read those questions as they come in here on the screen. Tim, let's talk about what's going on out there right now. There are people who are wearing masks.
Yes.
But not this guy.
That's pretty funny.
I saw that and had to show it. But the point is that there are people who don't want to engage face-to-face with a doctor, And so I think that's where we get into being able to market digitally. So what have you done to actually market your business in a digital way?
Well, I found a little online course that I really liked, and I learned to do what are called lead magnets and landing pages. And I did all of that through some very low cost, Facebook and website advertising. And all it really did was it got me email addresses so that I could start very slowly dripping out email content. And all the content wasn't trying to sell anybody something, it was trying to provide them important information they found valuable. And the more that you can provide them at no cost, the more that they begin to trust you and understand that that you have a grasp on their solution, their problems, and possibly have solutions for them. And then once they begin that trust phase, then they don't have any problem doing business with people that they trust and they respect as an advisor. And that's where you want to position yourself.
Yeah, that's right. If you position yourself as the expert in your industry, even though you may not feel like you're the expert at first, having being a part of the nation's largest network of medical revenue managers, which is what ABS is, then you feel like that you are an expert because there's no question that anybody could ask that you couldn't answer because you have all of us and our staff behind the scenes to help you answer those questions.
Right. And I started, like guest blogging. I joined Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups and things like that where I could just go in and I could help people with my expertise. I developed, a skill set for, modifying software to make it optimal for a practice. And I didn't have to know how to code or anything, like software coding. I just had to know how to set the software up. And you have no idea how that exploded our business.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And of course, again, all that we're talking about right now, folks, is things that you can do to market digitally. So, Tim, I ran across this article in the Los Angeles Times here just a few days ago uh, that says, as a doctor, I use telemedicine. With the coronavirus threat, it could revolutionize healthcare. This to me is the future of doctors seeing patients digitally or virtually using their computers, or even on a cell phone nowadays you can do a video conference with people. So have you utilized any of that, or what do you think is happening out there right now with the telemedicine thing?
Oh my goodness. Well, practically every other phone call I've gotten for the last 3 weeks has been about telemedicine.
Yeah.
Uh, so everybody's trying to go to it. Talked to a practice today that they were about 20% telemedicine 3 weeks ago. They, as of next week, they will be 100% until further notice.
100% telemedicine. Wow.
That's right. Because
So,
because they're on lockdown and they're actually able to see their patients and get to them. Until further notice, they are seeing everybody via an e-visit.
yeah. Well, and of course, you have the solution to that because in our system, as you know, we have built-in telemedicine. It's called the patient
Yep.
portal, and there's no need for a third-party service or anything. It's just built in. When the patient wants to see the doctor virtually, they simply set an appointment, and it goes back to
Hmm.
the doctor's office, of course, and verifies his time availability and so forth. And it's just a wonderful way if you don't have to be examined like in person. They have to, touch you. And so sometimes I think my doctor's just tapping on me with a little rubber hammer just to up his, bill. But they don't necessarily have to look in your ears or your eyes. Sometimes it's just something that you can describe to them or show them right there on video, and they can hear if you're coughing, what you sound like, sneezing, so forth. It's a great way to avoid having to be that face to face. And I'm sure doctors are thrilled use it. You know, I'm hearing that from other licensees too, as well. Eric Auger, who does some work with us, he's also out there in the marketplace testing this out. And he says, Patrick, I sent out an email to doctors in my area just recently telling them that we had telemedicine available for them. And he said, I got text messages and emails back within the hour from doctors telling that they wanted to, actually meet with him and find out more about this. So it's just a really hot topic right now. And for those of you who are
Sure
not
is.
curious to how that works, it looks kind of like this. The doctor sees on his side himself or herself and the patient. And of course, you on the patient side through the patient portal in our system would see the doctor as well. Now, if you don't have a headset or your microphone or, there's some technical reason why you can't talk, kind of like we had this morning, Tim, this is great because it has a chat feature built right into it. So you can simply type your questions in and the doctor replies to you. And the doctor might say, let me see that broken arm that we fixed, or let me see that rash that you say you have. And you can do all that with the video conferencing. So it's just a great feature. I think that doctors are wide open to that right now. And that's why many of our licensees are just thrilled. We're going to do a webinar tomorrow on telemedicine for all of our licensees. Tim, I don't know if you've gotten that invitation yet or not, but
I did. Really excited about that.
Hey, there's a question here from Paula. She says, how much do you usually make per doctor? Well, that's a tough one.
Well, of course, it's going to vary. My budgeting, I always round it off because I'm extremely conservative about revenue that we would be getting in. It almost always exceeds what I budget for, but I budget all my expenses around $2,500 per doctor per month. But I've had some that are upwards of $5,000-$6,000 a month. Most of them will fall in that mid range there, where they'll be in that $3,500 to $4,500 per month as far as raw revenue.
Yeah, and Paula, just so you know, if you haven't been on our website up here to, I'm here now, as you can see, right up here under income potential. There's a medical billing calculator that you can drop some numbers into here. We've got some suggested numbers there already. But anyway, just hit the reset button and you'll see that, for example, with a doctor that's seeing 20 patients a day, that could be, $31,000 a year gross revenue from that doctor. So it can be very profitable.
Right.
Yeah.
The what we paid for our license, we earned it back in 1 year with one doctor.
Oh, hey, that's a good question that I don't see it up here today, but there's people who ask that all the time. What's your return on your investment? And so Tim is saying that the license fee that he paid, which was probably considerably less than what we are charging nowadays, is $28,000.
It was a little less, yeah.
That's easy to return that back, even with one doctor, as you can see from that example I just gave there. Yeah.
Yeah, from one doctor in 1 year. Our first client was a gynecologist. She did not deliver babies, so she was not an OB, but she just did gynecology, and she was barely more than a startup practice at that time. And we were able to recoup our entire investment in 1 year with that one doctor. And look, I looked at franchises. I looked at a lot of different stuff because I couldn't believe it was true, because it just didn't. It's the ROI. You just don't see numbers like that on anything else, and it's like there's got to be something wrong with this. So.
Yeah, well, and as you know, Tim, we're pretty upfront about the fact that we make money on all the services that our licensees offer to doctors. So it's not just the upfront licensing fee, but we do make money on the back end as well. That's what allows us to continue doing live webinars for our licensees, teaching them and coaching them. Behind the scenes, we spend a lot of money helping our licensees get that first client and get that return on investment. So it's very, very, very typical. Hey, here's a question from Casey. She says, how many hours do you spend selling direct? Do you do any marketing at this point now, Tim?
I don't do any marketing at all. Would you mind if I told like my version of our longitudinal story where we are now?
No, no, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. so so just so you know, um, the opportunities that presented themselves over a period of years, we built our revenue up to a point where we drew the attention of a national billing company, which has provided me with a nice little revenue stream. It was a nice chunk up front, and we still get residual income from that. But in the process of building up our business, we got opportunities where, I mean, people say, "Do you do this?" Say, "I'll learn how to do that." And so now we answer patient phone calls for practices, and that became so lucrative that I don't really spend a lot of time marketing at all. My advertising budget is virtually zilch, and we have turned away business over the years just because we've gotten to a comfortable spot that we really like where we're at right now, and we're comfortable. And so the those kind of opportunities wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't started up with this.
It's a great story, Tim, and it proves that again, without being a franchise, you'd be restricted with all kinds of restrictions there of selling a franchise, but it allows our licensees to be really truly independent business people. We've had licensees branch off into all sorts of services for medical practices that we don't offer as a company because they're free to
Right.
do that. That's their business, and so they can build it
And
as
that was one
however
of
they want.
yeah, that was one of my stipulations, is that whatever we were going to do, I didn't want to have all of the residual money that I was going to have to be paying out month after month, year after year to a franchise. And I wanted to be able to do it from anywhere on the planet that I could get an internet connection, and I didn't want to have hard and fast rules about how I had to operate my business. I wanted freedom to scale it up or down or sideways any way that I saw fit. And this is the only thing I found that I could do that with.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty rare out there to find a business that's as profitable as this is, and yet has the ability to be as free to do anything you want to with it. Licensees have just gone in all kinds of directions I never dreamed. Now, here's a question for Veronica though about that we get from a lot of people, because everybody knows that in medical billing there are codes involved that the doctor uses to bill insurance and Medicare, and so
mhm.
people are always asking us how much of that do you need to know, and that's Veronica's question to you, Tim. How do you handle clients that need medical coding?
Well, we have coding services that were associated with the code right. We have two partners with that you have provided us with. And as far as I'm concerned, if they need coding, they pay extra for coding. That's not part of our core service. That's what we would call an ancillary service, and they only pay for the amount of coding that they need to have done.
Yeah.
The technology partners that you guys have partnered us up with it's like we can get just about anything done we need to get done. If you choose to go that route, I mean, I know other licensees that have gone to school and become certified professional coders, and if that's what you want to do, that's great. But you don't have to do that because we have a partner to do it.
Well, that's true, but we also have all of the codes that doctors need really built into our system. Now, sometimes they don't know which one to pick, and that's where CodeWright comes in, because we have
Hmm.
certified medical coders who perform those
Yep.
services for you, for the doctor. But
But
the system itself
we've
is very
never had a
important.
well, we've sorry to interrupt, but we've never had a certified coder on staff, and we have never had to have certified coding services except for one surgeon that we did, and it had to be coded from notes, and that's why we used CodeWrite.
Yeah.
But Robin, my wife, she's never been a certified coder, and she came from working at corporate office at Coca-Cola, and that certainly has nothing to do with medical coding, and she was able to become extremely proficient at it. There are plenty of resources inside the software and available to the public, and you can become as good at it as you want to be.
Yeah. Whoa, you're right, Tim. And I've interviewed many licensees that say, I was worried about the codes because I thought I needed to be a coder and I didn't want to learn all those codes and deal with them. And they found out that, again, our system is, as I'm illustrating here, here's a screenshot that shows we have the older codes, the ICD-9 codes, and the latest ICD-10 codes. And these codes are updated on a regular basis, folks. So they're built right in where the doctor can choose the codes that they want right there on the screen if they're using an iPad or something like that when they're seeing the patient. Yeah. Now, here's one from Paula. Says, for you, Mr. Phillips, do you all teach us how to market the business and get clients? Tim, why don't you kind of relate what you learned in our training and what our marketing covered? Did that get you off? Yeah.
Well, first of all, they give you plenty of training, they give you plenty of support, and they gave you plenty of materials to get started. And like I said, I mean, once you get the first happy customer, then the amount of marketing that you actually have to do to get number 2, number 3, number 4 dramatically decreases as long as you work really hard and make them happy. But there are webinars all the time where we learn new techniques. Eric developed a Done For You webinar series that the licensees market it as, I'm sponsoring this webinar, and you invite them to it for free. That was all included with my license. So you're constantly building all types of new marketing techniques. I think that the thing that I like is because you can kind of pick the thing that makes the most sense and you're most comfortable with it and use that as your primary method of marketing. You don't have to use it all, but there's so much to choose from that there's something there for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Tim. It's like, look, we teach you a dozen different ways that you could market to doctors, but you pick and choose the ones that you're most comfortable with and go out and give those a try. If that doesn't work, then just go try another one. I can guarantee you that if you do all that we teach, you will get a client.
I spent my entire career, going face to face doing B2B marketing, and selling. But I'm not particularly good at that in this. I have become much better as a digital marketer, as a speaker. I got opportunities. I did a favor for a practice management consultant who just happened to put together statewide conferences for podiatrists. And she liked it so much, she said, would you be willing to come and speak at one of our conferences? And I said, sure. She said, okay, here's the catch. I'm not going to pay you. You'll have to pay all of your expenses to get there and everything, but we'll give you a booth to display in. And you won't get paid for speaking either. And I was like, oh, okay. And I went and did it, and I walked away with 4 or 5 clients. And I was like, I'll do as many of these as you want. So I wound up speaking at, 6 or 8 different statewide conferences, and it was the best marketing I ever did.
Yeah, and Tim, you touched on this, but I want to kind of cover this in a little bit more in detail. People don't realize how much time and effort that ABS puts into helping the licensees, not only on just the support end, but to do the front end marketing. We do, for example, demos, live demos for your prospective clients. And that means that we, our people, get online and actually do a demo of our system so the doctors can see the advantages of outsourcing their billing to you. Now, that means we can answer all their questions. You can be on there, of course, as well, virtually, digitally, and listening to everything that's going on. But that's just one of the things we do. And then we just added, like you said, Tim, the virtual done for you webinars. So we're doing webinars for our licensees, just like we're doing this one today for you folks who are looking into our business. We do these webinars for the licensees so that they can go out and tell their doctors and office managers, look, we're doing a webinar on HIPAA compliancy or telemedicine or whatever, and you're invited to it. So they'll give them the link to the webinar, the people register, and then they come and they go to the webinar. We don't promote anything on those webinars except for our licensees. We tell people, look, at the end of the webinar, go back to the person who invited you to this webinar and find out more about how you can find out more about HIPAA compliancy or whatever the topic is. That points those prospects back to you. And then, Tim, as you know, we have a great follow-up system for that too.
Yes, and those live demos that you're talking about, I always found that when we did the live demos, as long as you can get a practice to a live demo, your close rate's up there in the 60-70% range. You know, so it's a high close ratio by the time you get them to the demo.
Yeah, it is. I just want to address a couple of questions people have asked about that telemedicine. Andrew says, is telemedicine a value-added revenue source for the ABS licensees? Yes, it is, Andrew, that you do make money on that. It's a part of our electronic health record system that the doctor is involved in. And so the fees that the doctor pays to access that, access fees, we call them each month, you participate in that revenue. So it's an ongoing revenue that you build up from that. Yeah. I think Catherine asked a couple of times here about networking. She's asking, can you speak about what type of networking places would you recommend if you wanted to go out and do that for your marketing?
Well, there are a number of networking organizations out there. You know, I mean, you can also use chambers of commerce. I'm down in Alabama, and our local chamber here in Jefferson County actually has a medical offshoot group. It's nothing but medical professionals in it. So those are always good to look for like that. There are a number of different ones. I personally joined BNI, which was a networking. It's not inexpensive to do, but it was what got me my first client. And like I said, the first client paid for all of our license fees and my BNI fees for the year. So I was a fan of that one. So
yeah, that's all you have to make is one good connection at one of those networking groups, and you're off and running. Like you said, that can pay for your membership and then BNI plus all kinds of other expenses.
Right, but networking is not the only thing that will work, and that's what I said earlier. Is like there are so many opportunities for them for ABS to tell you your options as far as marketing. Not everybody's comfortable in a networking setting. I was, and that worked for us, but it's just not for everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's true of everything that we teach. Some things fit people's personality or their time or their budget, and others don't.
Sure.
So you pick and choose from that. And since we have a great support team who on the back end, folks, we'll work with you and do whatever it takes to help you find that first client. Really, Tim, isn't it just a matter of helping people get that first client? Because like you said, the referrals will come from that.
Yeah, it's funny. I called into support nonstop until I got that first client. And then once I got the second client, I don't think I ever called into support again. You know, it was like, once you get it rolling like that, it's like it's just something that becomes second nature to you. And I knew that they were there for me, but I felt like I kind of had a a method that I could repeat and make it work for me. And then when I got the opportunity to go do the public speaking, that was one of the things that I felt like I excelled at, and that was the thing that really kicked our business into hyperdrive. So if you're bent that way, then you just need to position yourself where you get opportunities to speak in public, and
Yeah.
it could be perfect for you instead of networking.
Right. Yeah, different strokes for different folks.
That's
Yeah,
right.
one of the services that we offer is this one here. I'm going to enlarge this so you guys can see this a little bit better, but this is this is what we call auto card. Tim, you want to kind of explain the concept behind this, because you mentioned emails. You used email blasts of different kinds to market digitally, but this is a little different, isn't it?
I do. It's like everybody's inbox is filled with email. You have to be really, you have to really understand email marketing and how to do it effectively. This thing, I love AutoCard because it's sending greeting cards and postcards and that sort of thing. And really, nobody does this sort of thing anymore. It's so personalized. It's so unique in the way that you approach it, and it's like a drip email, except it's a more personal thing. And so few people are doing it. It really makes an impact if it's done on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's almost like when you get a card in the mail, and these are printed, full color, slick. You open them up, they have a message inside that you can personalize with your own logo and your picture and your name. Folks, this is a fantastic system, but it's all done online in a cloud-based
Hmm.
system. So with a few clicks of your mouse, you can actually send cards out to your prospective doctors in your area, and we'll show you where to even find lists of those doctors out there in your area. Uh, that,
Oh,
that
and,
just
and and I know that you just did a campaign there for telemedicine too. So that's
Yeah,
just awesome and timely.
yeah, that's right. We just released that last week, a new auto card campaign for telemedicine, and the doctors are responding to that already too. Okay, here's a good question from Nevin. He says, "How long does it take to do the billing? What kind of time would somebody spend doing the billing for, say, one doctor?" Kind of make it simplified for us there, Tim.
Okay. So if it's a little one doc practice and the doc's seeing, I don't know, 10 or 15 people a day, usually it's not more than, you know, an hour to 3 hours a day. That's it. You know, that that would be, and it's probably closer to an hour. Um, and then when you get a really robust practice that's seeing 50 people a day and that sort of thing, it's still not a full-time job. You can handle that easily in 20 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I tell people, when you get a handful of, I mean, hold up your hand. When you get that many doctors, if they're typical doctors, you will be full time in this business. Now, that doesn't mean you put in
Hmm.
40 hours necessarily, but you'll put in all the hours you want to probably, and be making, you could be making a six-figure revenue on that. We've done
That's
webinars where
right.
we've taken,
Robin,
I'm sorry, what's that?
no, I'm sorry. I'm just going to say Robin can handle, 5 to 8 providers by herself, in 40 hours or less a week.
Yeah, yeah, it's very
And
typical.
so,
You'll know when you
yeah,
need to hire somebody else.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
David wants to know he says, is the telemedicine in the iClaim portion of the business? David, it's actually a part of what we call the patient portal that's available to all the patients the doctor has, but the doctor accesses it through the electronic medical record system. Our brand is called EMRX. Yeah. Thomas
Mhm.
wants to know, Tim, how much did you spend when you started up initially? In addition to the license fee, what do you think you spent to do some marketing?
Oh, uh, I spent ridiculous amount of money, here and there, just like trying to go and do trade shows and things like that before I got an opportunity to do them, basically for just get there and show up. I probably spent another $10,000-15,000 and shouldn't have spent half of that. Because the thing that was really important was getting to. I'm not a big fan of spending money that you don't have to spend, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way. So I do not like people just throwing money at practices. I've talked to people that say, "Oh yeah, I'm taking meals to the practice. We're going to do that," and all you've effectively done at that is just bought them a meal. You've got to have a plan with that sort of stuff. I spent a lot of money without a plan, and it's okay to spend money as long as you know what you want in return for it.
Yeah.
And then that's money well spent. But just spending money without a plan is a mistake. So
Yeah, and Tim, I don't know if this was the case with you or not, but a lot of people have told me that they were trying to do marketing based on what they knew in their
yep.
past life, their past business experience, and it just doesn't work the same here in this industry, does it?
No, it does not. And the guerrilla marketing is much better. The networking is much better. The word of mouth will serve you well. Um, One of the things that I did was I tried to put myself in locations where I knew that doctors and healthcare professionals spent their off time, and some of them are do charitable work and things like that, and I just tried to find out where they're going to be when they're not doing what they normally do. And I was able to do some volunteer work and that sort of thing and get to know some healthcare professionals that, you know, while I didn't directly do services for them, they introduced me to people that I did do business with.
Yeah,
So that's that's another way of doing networking is just being charitable, being a solution.
that's right. And just being there for the doctor to help them in whatever they need help with. Yeah,
That's
because
right.
you become friends with the office manager and the staff, don't you?
You do.
Casey wants to know what type of competition do you encounter? What's the comp?
I'm sorry for chuckling because that was one of the things that I asked when I started because I was so concerned about there being too many people just like me that had bought licenses close to me, and we were all going to be stepping all over one another. And it was just silly for me to think that way. There's more business out here than we'll all collectively ever get to. And honestly, I think that somebody was kind enough to help me out with this, but I think there were 6 people within about a 100-mile radius of me that were ABS licensees. To this day, I've never met any of them. I've never run across them in competition. And the thing about our business, we wound up making people happy in other states because I was going around and speaking, and the vast majority of all of our clients were in other states. We didn't make our living in our backyard, and because of our aggressive nature on our digital marketing campaign and my public speaking in other states, it just turned out that our competition was not in our backyard.
Yeah, that's a good point. People ask us if I'm limited in my territory, to the 5 miles around me or whatever. But again, not being a franchise, we don't have any restrictions on that. And you don't want that because, like Tim said, you might get a referral from a doctor here in your local area to a doctor that's
Hmm.
in a completely different state, and you want to be able to do that doctor's billing as well.
Yeah. I see that picture that you put up there. That's my first client.
Is that your first client, really? Well,
That is my first client.
I remember you sending this to me. Oh gosh, way back when we first interviewed you years ago, and so I keep all these. Here's another one that I don't know if you've seen this one or not, but this one's you were
Oh
doing
yeah.
some show somewhere, trade show, and that's the booth that you
Um,
borrowed there from us.
I did. I did. That was the Texas podiatry conference that I got to speak at.
Oh, okay. Is that where this picture was taken?
That one is the Georgia State Podiatry Conference.
Um,
Can
Eddie
can I
says,
just tell you one more thing about that first client of ours talking
oh,
about
sure, yeah,
you never
yeah,
know where your referrals are coming from?
right.
She was really happy, and she had someone she had gone to medical school with that had a practice up in D.C., and she recommended us to them as well. And that's how we, if you had those doctors, when they go to medical school, they don't all stay in the same town. They spread out all over the country. And if you make them happy, then that word of mouth is really, really powerful.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you bet. All right. Eddie also asked, do you need business licenses in the states that you have clients in but don't live or work in?
No,
No, Eddie, you can do medical billing for any doctor in any state. As long as you have a license in your own state that license you as a business, then you're fine.
that's right.
Uh, let's see. Eddie also says, does the doctor's office have to use the same software? How do you get the billing info from the doctors? All right, that's kind of two questions there, but I can address the first one. Basically, Eddie, they don't have to have the same software. No, they can be using something completely differently. Now, to get the benefits of, a good 98% acceptance rate on claims, you'd want them to be on our iClaim billing system. So they would need to be using that, but you can also import that data from their existing system into ours. Now, I don't know if it's true with you and Robin, Tim, but have you done billing for doctors just using whatever system they currently have?
I have done that, and we found that there were some drawbacks for us in it. We look. I don't want anybody to misconstrue this as advice. I'm just going to tell you our story, uh, because I know other licensees that don't care what system that they work in. They're fine with doing all the billing. we we found that we felt like that we performed better in our software, and we got to a point where we could be a little bit more demanding of the practices, because at the end of the day what really matters is the people that they choose to work with. And we worked extremely hard, and we did everything that we could to provide them with outstanding results. And because of that, we got to a point where we said, if you want to work with us, we'll work with this system. And I'll give you my little analogy. My analogy is that, Doc, if you showed up for surgery one day and all they had was plumbing tools to work with, how do you think surgery would go? Not the way you planned, I'm suspecting.
Right.
So all I'm saying is that this is the tool that I need to deliver what you expect. And so the docs go, oh, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
And so we wound up only working with iClaim and EMRX because we felt like that we performed at a very high level with that one, and we were very fortunate to have everybody say, okay, we'll do that.
Yeah. Eddie says, her second part of her question was, I'm sorry, this could be a man, I don't know, Eddie, I'm assuming it's a lady, but how do we get billing info from the doctors? Uh, I don't know if you started out, Tim, but we used to recommend people go by and pick up the super bills and things from the doctor's office. That was years ago. Probably since you've been
Yeah.
in the business, we haven't done that. It's all done electronically.
Well, what we did, we made all of our clients in the process of documenting their encounters. I optimized the system for them so that they did a lot of, I think they call it gamification now, but it was really more tap, on buttons and that sort of thing. And it would put the codes and everything. And there was one button that says generate PM billing. And as soon as they did that, it showed up in the billing system that was ready for us to work on. Now, we have worked for clients that insisted on using paper super bills, and I actually have bought scanners and said, here, scan it and send it to me. And we used iDocs now. I think that's one of the most fantastic tools I've ever used, and they would just upload it to that, and then we had it right there available to us.
Yeah, I wish I had time to go into that. iDocs Now is a service that you can offer to the doctors that turns their office paperless, basically. Yeah. Tim, I'm going to let you
Yeah.
go. We're right at the top of the hour, and I'm going to wrap up with a few other things here for people who want to hang on and learn a little bit more about how to get started in this business. Thank you so much for your time today.
Sure. Oh, my pleasure, and I'm so sorry we had a rocky start to this thing, so apologies.
Hey, it's probably that virus out there that did that.
Got to be that. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you being here on with us. And Patrick, you've been a great friend for a number of years. Happy to do one of these anytime you ask.
Hey, appreciate it, Tim. Thank you so much. Let us know what
Thanks
we
a
can do to
lot.
help you.
Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Folks, here's how you get started. I'll address just a couple of other questions here as we wrap up, but I wanted to let you know that we have a research guide that's over 50 pages of information, and it's a downloadable research guide that you get from the person who invited you to this webinar. Just get back with that person. It's called your business development rep here at ABS, and they will get you this business guide. Also, be sure to browse our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel out there at youtube.com/YABS. And you can see literally hundreds of videos that we've done over the years and interviews with other licensees as well. Thirdly, ask your ABS rep for an owner reference list. Yeah, that's a list of actual licensees just like Tim with their phone numbers and contact information that you can call and ask them what they think about this business. The live demos I mentioned earlier, just be sure to ask your ABS rep also to give you a live demo, just like we would do for your doctor prospects, and we'll get online with you and show you everything you need to know about our system and answer all your questions. Then, last but not least, review the purchase agreement and the funding instructions. That's just a 4-page document that you can review, and it'll give you all the information about getting your funds into us. Now, folks, we do live training on a regular, ongoing basis, but it's pretty unique. We used to have people fly down here to Texas and spend a week at a hotel. Now we do it all online. That's right, socially distancing from you. We have live instructors, though, that will engage with you one-on-one. That is, according to your schedule. We'll book these schedules for this online training. They're done in 1 to 1.5 hour modules, and you can finish your entire training in about 30 days if you want to, or you can stretch it out longer than that if you'd like as well. We do offer a money-back guarantee, and that just means that 100% of your money will be returned if for some reason within the first 30 days you don't think this is the right business for you. Just let us know, and the only way we can do that, of course, folks, is because, well, it's only happened a handful of times in our whole history. Now, we do another webinar next week that is on the topic of it's a perfect time for a home-based business in healthcare. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that right there in the question box. You should see that appear right about now, that link. And you can go register for that even if you don't know if you can attend that next week, because as you know, we record all these, and we'll send you the link to the recording. So, folks, thank you for being on here today. I did have a couple of questions here from people I'm going to answer because they've hung on here for this. Let's see, Casey, I'm not quite sure I understand your question about the startup costs that are listed in the software and services. I think you may be referring to our research guide, and she's asking if those costs are in addition to the $27,990 license fee. Yes, they are. Those will be additional costs, Casey. Now, you heard Tim say that he spent some money on this that he shouldn't have. Even what he did spend, half of that is not what most of our licensees spend. So that's why we kept our licensing fee where it's at about $28,000, because if you spent even $2,000 more dollars on marketing, it would be more than most people spend on marketing to get their first client. So that keeps it all right there at 30,000. That's why we do that. How many licensees in total? Casey, we have about 600 licensees coast to coast. Remember, we've been doing this for 26 years, but we're pretty picky about the people that get into the business. And like I said, we don't have a lot of people signing up. For example, out of 100 people that show up on these seminars, maybe one or two, actually sign up as a licensee because, well, it's a lot of money, and some people are looking for a real cheap, business to get started with. So it kind of thins the herd to put a license fee at that point for people. Casey's also asking about E&O insurance. That's something that you can get to cover errors and omissions. E&O, it's called. And Casey, I think I answered that in the text there, but some people do that are in our business. Most don't, because if you're doing what the doctor says to do, and you can show that you've done exactly, you put in exactly the codes they gave you and so forth, then you're fine. It's perfect. Somebody also asked here about the clearinghouses, folks. There are companies out there that will put you in a business doing billing for doctors, and they leave it to you to sign up for your own clearinghouse. There's about a dozen of them out there, so you'd have to research each one of those. You still wouldn't know which one gives the best service, and so it's not something we recommend. That's why our system is the only system we know that actually has the clearinghouse built in. That means we can take control and be responsible for those claims actually getting paid. Okay, so anyway, thank you. A lot of people are saying thank you, Tim. Oh, thank you. Love you, Patrick. I like that. All right, and yes, it is in the question box, Eric says. Oh, yeah, good. Okay, he said that the link showed up there. So go ahead and register for that next week's webinar right now and get back with your ABS rep and follow those steps that you see there. The link is in the question box, and there's the steps that you should take. Okay, well, again, folks, thanks for being on here. I hope I see you on next week's webinar. We do these every Wednesday at 4 o'clock Central Time, and you can be on all these you want. I'm just thrilled that you have all that you need from our webinars to get what you need to get make a decision as to whether this business is right for you. And I hope I see you on one of our online training modules soon too. Bye for now. I'll leave that link in the box and leave this running for about 60 more seconds so you can go ahead and sign up for next week's webinar.